Houston, Texas, with my good friend Ken Harburg. I met him in Monterey. Of course, I was living in Monterey at that time. I lived there for 26 years up until some years back. And it's still home to me because I've lived there longer than any place else in the world. And anyway, Ken is a bass player. He was the principal of one of the schools in Monterey or Seaside, one of those areas. He can tell you all about that. But anyway, John Paul, some of you knew John Paul, my bass player. And I love John Paul. But he wasn't the best bass player for me, but he was just my good friend. And Ken would sometimes fill in when John Paul couldn't. And it was all I could do to keep from telling John Paul he was out of a job. Because he was my friend and I couldn't fire him. But Ken, he always puts himself down. Not in a bad way, but he always says, well, I'm not the best of bass players, blah, 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 blah. The guy was perfect for me. Ken is not fancy. He's there where he's supposed to be at, and that's what you want. Our friendship started with him filling in as a bass player for me. We had a mutual friend, Ernesto Pomerana, I think his name is. Some of you remember him from Monterey. He used to play the pan flutes with the Peruvian Indians. But anyway, Ken and I's relationship has only grown through the years. He's one of my closest friends. And his wife, Teresa, is just a darling. I come to visit them more than I do about anybody else. But before I do this, let me do this little song I'm going to do for you. Here's a song that all the cool cats were doing back in 1952. Some of the people who did this song, Frank Sinatra, Lena Horne, Ella Fitzgerald, and the greatest of them all, Louis Armstrong. Wendy got all excited, the dog. Louis Armstrong. Louis to me, when Louis Armstrong does a song, doggone it, it's done. Okay. But anyway, here's one of those songs. I'm going to do it for you. And then we're going to bring on Ken Harburg. Give me a kiss to build a dream on. In my imagination will thrive upon that kiss. Sweetheart, I ask no more than this, a kiss to build a dream on. Give me a kiss for just one moment, and my imagination will feed my hungry heart. Sweetheart, one thing before we part, a kiss to build a dream on. I'm alone with my fantasy. Listen, I'll be there with you. Will you be there? Weaving romances and making believe they are true, 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 so true. So give me your lips for just one moment, and my imagination will make that moment live. Give me what you alone can give, a kiss to build a dream on. One more time. Give me a kiss to build a dream on, and my imagination will feed my hungry heart. Sweetheart, one thing before we part, a kiss to build a dream on. build a dreamer, and my imagination will thrive upon that kiss. Sweetheart, I ask no more than this, a kiss to build a dream on. When I'm alone with my fantasy, I'll be there with you, weaving romances and making believe they are true, 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 so true. So give me your lips for just one moment, and my imagination will make that moment live. Give me what you alone can give, a kiss to build a dream on. You got to give me what you alone can give, a kiss to build a dream on. You got to give me what you alone can give, a kiss to build a dream on. I said, give me what you alone can give, a kiss to build a dream on. A kiss to build a dream on, one of those lovely songs. Right now, I'm going to introduce you to these damn machines. I'm telling you, just because I don't pay them, they do anything they want sometimes. Dropping you in the garbage, you keep it up. Okay. Listen, Ken Harbaugh, I called him really one of my very closest friends. And we haven't known each other as long as I have some of my old friends, but we have become very close. His wife is a darling. And I just can't think of better people. I got sick here, and rather than let me leave, they asked me to stay for another day. And I was going to leave because I figured, one day of Alligator is about enough. Ken Harbaugh, come on and join me, my friend.
And now for something completely different.
So, Ken, tell these people something about you. Well, when I met you, you were a principal at a school.
At first, I was the principal of Fitch Middle School in Seaside on the old Fort Ord. And now it's Seaside Middle School since I've left. And then when I left Monterey, I was assistant superintendent for HR. I had about 10 in the district, and that was about 10,000 students and 1,000 employees.
And then one day, through, I guess, Ernesto, you ran into me. Or was it through Ernesto?
No, I think the first time I met you, because I was into playing live music then and going to the jam sessions and other things, and you were a man about town, and I'd be at a place and you'd waltz in and survey the crowd. And I think I met you at the Mucky Duck.
Yeah, yes,
and
yes.
And then somehow it got to the mention of playing. I had worked a little with Ernesto, not in music, and then eventually I worked hard and became amazingly adequate and became Alligator's third call bassist. If John Paul couldn't play, he had a guy he'd call, and if that guy couldn't come, he'd say, well, let's give Ken a call.
Well, that's not true.
My benefit was I didn't cause trouble, and I'd show up when I was supposed to show up.
And play where he was supposed to play. I admire Ken as a musician, as a bass player, because not many people can play with me and have the right feel. I don't have to tell him what to play. He falls into it naturally because Ken is just like that. Now, Ken, you made the move from beautiful Monterey, California to Texas. Would you tell us about this transition?
Well, I met a girl. I had already owned a home in Texas. My daughter moved here because of a marriage, and her husband was working in San Antonio on a base, and I fell in love with Texas from the first visit. It was very calm. People were wonderful. Houses were cheap in Monterey. I couldn't, even as an administrator, couldn't afford a home. In Texas, I came out here and they said, yeah, well, not only do you qualify, do you want to buy two? And I said, no, one will do. And so I bought a house and my daughter lived in it, and I was going to plan on retiring there. I told her to keep an eye out for a tall Latina on a mountain bike, and her friend's aunt shows up with a road bike, but is a tall Latina. She goes, you got to meet my dad. And it didn't take long after that before we were together, and not long after that before we were married.
That is wonderful. That is wonderful. I remember the day I came into the Mucky Duck, and I saw you there with Teresa. And you came over to me and you said, well, Alligator, I've always wanted a Latina.
Mm-hmm.
And now I've got a Latina. You were so happy. And when I met her, she's just a sweetheart. She's feisty, though. I mean, let me tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you. If you're out on the playground, you don't want to get on her bad side. Okay. She's a lady, but she's a tomboy. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, indeed. I wish she was here because
which I needed to keep me in line.
Yeah, there you go. I wish she was here because I would love to have had her just wave at us and just say something. She is absolutely wonderful. So you've been living in Texas now for how many years?
14.
Has it been that? Boy,
Yeah.
time flies.
Yeah.
14.
I lived in San Antonio for a year and was principal of an elementary school. And I didn't like Texas. Texas is a non-union state. And while the unions are great for protection, but they can also be a problem with getting things done because you have to negotiate everything. So Texas went the opposite way. And they ask you to do a lot of things that are not nice. You know, you're not firing enough people. You know, you're not writing up enough people. And I don't think that's what it's about. So I got burned out on administration, and I didn't find my joy anymore. And I moved to Houston, and rather than just sit around the house, so my wife was working in the energy industry, doing structural design of offshore oil rigs on the computer, modeling. And so I started subbing in preschool and special ed. Started taking my guitar with me and having the time of my life. And then I said, well, you know, subbing doesn't pay as well as teaching. So in Texas, all you need for a credential is take a test, because I already had credentials. So I got my special ed, my ESL. I had 5 credentials. I have 5 credentials in Texas. And I got a job teaching preschool kids with Down syndrome, you know, Asperger's and Williams syndrome, things like that. And then I took an elementary job, which I had for the last 7 years, teaching 1st through 5th graders, the most severe that would be in a regular elementary school, self-contained class. Having the time of my life. I've never had more fun in education, never made a bigger difference with kids and parents. And it was a perfect cap to a long career in education.
Your passion, because you know I've been here several times. I don't know what several times, but you know, I've been. Whenever I leave California, I'm probably headed toward Kansas. That's the way it is. But your passion for the handicapped kids, for the kids with how would you?
A lot of times I just say kids with.
Yeah. Because these days you never know what label
So
fits. But your passion for them was just absolutely amazing. I would see you come home from school, and you would sit, and your eyes would light up, and you would tell me about what the kids did, and you know, and I remember looking at you and thinking, wow, what a guy, because you could tell that your love for those kids was just so immense that you could only help them.
Well,
you could only help.
It's a blessing to teach a kid to speak that's never spoken to their parents in 8 years, and you know, not necessarily suddenly they're eloquent, but for a kid to turn and say "I love you" to his mom and mean it, and he's never spoken to his mom in 8 years, that kind of tugs at you. And but one of the biggest, I don't know if it's a con or whatever else, is people always go, bless your heart. You bless, and you say that in the South, you know, bless,
Yeah, oh, yeah, oh, yeah.
bless your heart. You
Yeah.
doing that with those kids, you're just so amazing, have so much
Yeah.
patience. And I just laugh usually on the inside because they don't know. It's like the best gig. I've had almost all the gigs in education, and it's by far the best gig in education. It is the most fun, the most rewarding. And so when they say, oh, you're so wonderful to sacrifice yourself for those kids, and I'm just going, you don't even know.
You know, yeah.
I get more out of that than anything
You know,
else.
and you had kids that didn't speak.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you a little thing. I'm going to interject something here. When I perform for the senior citizens, you know, I'm a senior citizen, but I don't look at me like that, you know. And I performed at a place once, and I performed there several times. And the seniors, when you get to a certain age, you're almost childlike also. One day, one of the activities directors came over to me, and she looked like she had seen a ghost. And she came to me, she says, Alligator, I am stunned. And I said, what? She said, see that gentleman over there? He's been here in this home for 6 years. He's never spoken a word to anybody. We thought he couldn't talk. She said, I walked by him, and he touched me on the shoulder, and I leaned down, and he said, could you please ask Mr. Alligator, once he finishes, if he has time to chat with me? He's an interesting guy, and I really would like to talk to him. She said it just blew her mind. He had never spoken a word.
Yeah.
You know, and when you care for what you're doing, and you really, you know, because I'm really invested in the senior business like you were with your kids.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Miracles can happen.
Well, you're right. It's circle of life, and I'll disagree a little bit. It's not a miracle. They're there. Our preconceptions.
Yes.
We put things on it that aren't true.
Yeah.
The guy could talk,
But he just
so
didn't want
those
to.
people for 6 years were wrong.
Yeah.
The guy wasn't wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
So they had misread that he couldn't talk, so their expectations changed that he wouldn't talk, and so they stopped trying to get him to talk.
Yes. Yes.
That's what happened with one kid I got that was 8 and had never talked to his parents because he didn't have to. Because they would go, do you want a cookie? And he'd just stare at him. And do you want a hot dog? Do you want this? And they would go through this whole list until he, you know, and so he never had to say anything. Another one that hadn't talked, parent says he doesn't speak words. And I was a hard line, not brutal, not anything like that, but I was tough with the kids because they can rise to that expectation. And I made them use their words to get what they wanted. So we'd go out to the playground, and before they get out to the playground, they'd have to say, I'd say can, and they'd say can, and I'd say I, and they'd say I, one at a time. Can I go to the playground, please? Some of them could say the whole thing. Others, you know, I'd say can, and they go, and I, well, as long as they're trying, boom, go.
Yeah.
Well, this one kid that didn't talk, he wouldn't say anything. So I said, I kept trying. Okay, well, let's go over and sit on this bench and we'll talk about it till you get there. And he was getting madder and madder, and he wanted to go play on the playground. And after 5 minutes, he turned to me and goes, playground! And goes out on the playground. Oh, you can talk. And that's the thing with students with special needs is you have to be able to go, you know, say it with kind of a
Stern
face,
Yeah.
and then immediately go, hey, you can, you know,
Yeah.
like, stop it. Hey, good job, you know. Be a little schizophrenic. That was part of the joy.
That is wonderful.
Yeah.
And another thing you've done since you sort of retired, shall we say, is you've been getting into all kinds of different crafts.
You pick them up, you know, during your life. I started with a little woodworking. I grew up with a single mom and 3 sisters, so I didn't have a lot of male role models. But I remember a cutting board I made for my grandma in 4-H or whatever, and in college I learned to do some woodworking, and then I learned a little leather work, and then I learned a little metal work, and because what it is if I like something or I want something, I don't think how can I go buy it. I want to make it. And then what I found, like for knife making, I want to learn Forged in Fire got everybody making knives. I want to
Yeah,
make
yeah.
a knife. Well, then you got to make a sheath. Well, I already knew some leather work, so that was easy.
Yeah.
So, and I already knew the woodworking for the handles, so they start feeding into each other. So usually I just make something and then I get bored with it. I keep the tools and then I move on to a new hobby.
Yeah, Ken made me a bag that I treasure. I use it sometime when I'm going to a special gig. Just a really wonderful leather bag. I can't explain
It
it.
has a great picture of you on it.
Oh, that was the deal. He superimposed a picture of me somehow. You could tell it was me by the hat.
The hat and the profile.
Yeah, the hat and the profile.
It was a picture I took when we went with Donnie to NASA,
Okay.
and so I wanted to include that piece in the bag.
Yeah, my son Donnie. He and I come to visit Ken, and Donnie just loves Ken too. You know, yeah, but,
He's a good man.
yeah.
Well, I like to think too. You talked about coming to visit. Is that I think we've developed a pretty peaceful house.
Oh,
It's a
yes.
big house. It's quiet, and it's a good place to go decompress.
Yeah.
You know, so and also a good place to heal when you're sick.
When you're sick, yeah.
And it wasn't one day; it was 2 days. That's how sick this man was. It was 2 days, 2 nights that he was sick, and one night really sick. And so I'm glad he decided to stay a little longer with me. I'm sorry for you because you have to sit watch me.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
You know, do you? What are your plans for the future, or do you make plans for the future?
Well, my first 2 years of retirement was about catching up on 40 years of not sleeping between, administration, which it doesn't end, and then playing music till 2 in the morning. That doesn't end. I lost a lot of sleep over 40 years, and I'm just about at the end of that. And now I think the next stage is I like learning new things or doing what I like to do. My retirement is sufficient to live off. You can always use more money, but I don't like selling things, so I don't sell any of my work. I will trade with other artists for things,
Yeah.
but I won't sell it. I either give it away or trade. But now I'm thinking of getting a job of. I like cooking a lot. I'm pretty darn cook. I'm a good cook. I make great sandwiches too, and just a job making sandwiches would be a blast. A job being a short order cook, or go work as an apprentice to a luthier, and learn something new. I like making things. I spent a lot of my early adulthood with kids and watching TV with them and movies with them, and at the end of it, you have a nice experience, but you got nothing. Well, now I can watch a movie and I end up with let's see what I was watching MASH. I've been looking for a man bag, a merce, if you will, and I didn't like the saddlebag looking ones. And one day I was watching MASH, and Radar got a phone call on a mobile Korean War era mobile telephone. I said, "That's my bag." And so I got the design for it, and I don't know if you've ever seen a mobile telephone, field telephone. It's if you look it up online, it's pretty much what their case looks like, yeah. and I purposely left it unfinished. Unfinished so that it would age. Like this has never had any conditioner or anything in 4 or 5 years, and it's getting all gnarly, which is what I want. When I wear it, I want it to be unnoticed. Yeah. There can't be anything good in there because it's just so ratty, And it's very comfortable to wear when you have to walk a long ways. My latest thing is I'm into historical forms of exercise. Indian clubs.
You were showing me that.
And but I also use my other things like to get them. I didn't want to. You couldn't buy them because they're hard to find here. I was at a surplus store and I saw some souvenir baseball bats, and I said I could make some Indian clubs out of that. And I had some cedar and I knew how to turn things on a lathe, so I turned down the bat to 1 inch and I turned the cedar with a hole in the middle, and then now you can do the whole Indian club exercise. This is a light one, but I also have.
Then you got one over there that's really heavy.
Yeah, it's called a mugdar.
Mugdar. And what cultures does this come from?
East India.
East India. Okay.
Yeah, and if you look up Mugdar, I just made a Samtola, and I made what is like some of those Hindu gods you see carrying a big mace with a round ball on the end.
Yes,
It's
yes.
called a gada. Yeah, it was a weapon, but they also trained with it. And because these are lighter weight, even though the gada can be heavy, and one of my clubs is 15 pounds, you can't swing it around too long. They do light weights, many reps. Like they'll give you this little club, and sitting down you can't really do it. And I don't want to bonk Alligator. You can look at it online, and they'll say do that for 45 minutes, and then come and see me, and we'll do something else.
Yeah.
So they do it for a long time. It's very meditative and actually kind of graceful when other people do it.
That's amazing. That's something that I never even heard of. You know, so like they say, live and learn.
Yeah. So if it's interesting and I'm interested, I'll do it. I learned how to weld, and my wife's cousin is a sculptor. He's a rocket scientist in the daytime, and he's an artist and sculptor in galleries in the evening. And he taught me how to weld. I made a little sculpture that my daughter's holding for me right now, and it was fun. I never learned metal, so that was my new thing. Next, I have all the stuff to start blacksmithing.
I mean, some of this stuff this guy does is just amazing. I mean, I can't. Wow, you know.
Yeah.
I mean that sincerely. I mean, my goodness.
My hobby's collecting hobbies. Like I said, buying the tools and then doing something else, because I get bored with it after a while real quick. So I have a healthy case of ADD, which is a great thing if you're a teacher or an administrator or a waitress or anything that requires you to attend to 27 things at once, because that's what you're going to do anyway. And but I could not, like if I wanted to make money with leather bags, just make leather bag after leather bag. That would bore the tears out of me.
Yeah.
And
living in the Lone Star State, I've always loved Texas. I mean, now there are things about Texas that I don't like, of course, but in general, I've often told people I'm a Louisianan and a Texan. You know, because I've spent so much time in Texas in my life.
It's a very comfortable state.
Yes. When you put aside the politics, just living in Texas is absolutely wonderful.
And I've found, just so those of you that don't know, because so many Californians are coming here, some because they want Texas and some because they want to make Texas California. The politics doesn't hit your day-to-day life like it does in California with all the propositions and the every day, every year politics. I mean, they only meet every 2 years here. And the governor spouts off, or Ted Cruz spouts off, and he's not representing Texas, even though technically he is. But you know that we just go, go back to your.
Yeah, Ted Cruz seems to be so like that when he runs his mouth. Most people, I even do it. I just shine him on. Yeah, get out of here.
Yeah, so and that's kind of what it's like. Is it has no bearing on your day-to-day life here in Texas. You know what I mean? I'm sure for other people it may, but for the most part, we just keep moving on.
And Texas is a free carry state for handguns. You know, I like that, really.
I do too, but you know, there's two forms of that. You can get a permit, and then you have reciprocity with 37 other states, because you have to go through training to get it. Or you can just do it now because it's your right in Texas, but that doesn't mean you can go to a state that has a training program and suddenly carry. So the nice thing is if I want to go to Colorado, you know, and if I was going to carry, I don't have to unload, lock up, and everything in those other states, because we have reciprocity and I have the training permit.
Continue. I want to cut this thing off. It's
Sure.
bopping.
And even if you're not into guns and that kind of thing, everybody kind of reaps the benefit from it, because the bad guys don't know who's carrying. And so even if you hate guns, and that's okay, you know, you have a safer overall experience. And there's generally not a lot of, except at ATMs, it seems. people going to ATMs on a Friday night at 9 and 10 o'clock by themselves,
Yeah.
and then they're surprised when they're robbed. Just common sense. But generally, there's not a lot of home invasion. There's not a lot of other things like that because they don't know what's going on.
Now, people who, I'm not against guns. I do think they need to be controlled. I'm against the assault rifles that are military style rifles that have no business on the street. I mean, I'm for all of that. But I grew up with guns were everywhere when we were growing up. They were everywhere, and believe me, they were all loaded. because when we were growing up, it was like, why did you have a gun if it's not loaded? Like I said, I'm for this gun control. Things have gotten out of hand. We having all of these mass shootings and all that stuff, but I'm not anti-gun. I'm not anti-gun. I know a lot of people are. Guns are a part of our heritage. They've always been around. When I was young, I carried them to school to go hunting in the evening. But that was back in the backwoods.
When I was in high school in the 70s and then an administrator in the 80s, by the end of the 80s, they were still letting kids have their deer rifles in the back of their pickup truck because they were going hunting after school.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with guns. I love to hunt. I haven't hunted in years now, but I grew up hunting. I tell people used to ask me, they go, what was it like when you were growing up? And I say, well, I grew up in foster homes, mostly farms, ranches, stuff like that. And before I went to school in the morning, I had to go feed the chickens, feed the pigs, give hay to the horses and the mules and all of this stuff. And also, if we wanted to eat breakfast, I'd get my little 22 rifle and go down by the creek, pop a few squirrels. Now, some people like that going, squirrels, oh, those little things, but yeah, they're good eating, okay? Go ahead and pop off a few squirrels for breakfast, and that was it. But
and squirrels aren't easy to hunt.
Oh no,
they're smart.
Oh yes, and I made a sport of it because I love to catch them jumping from one tree to another. That's when you know you're a good shot. But enough about the guns. I know a lot of people are anti-gun. One of these days, I'm going to come here and I need you to record with me. I know you say you're retired from music, but
record like.
Well, I got some original stuff that I wanted to do.
Make some backing tracks.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No problem.
And
we can dust stuff off. Yeah. Just give me a little warning.
So
one visit we had with Alligator, I remember we were doing some recording, and he had brought his lovely wife with him, and then we were playing a song back, and we all broke out and danced.
Yes.
And that was a special moment. That was a pivotal moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Every time I come here, like I told you, when I come here, it's not like I'm coming to visit somebody. In fact, it wasn't like that the first time I walked in here with you guys. I walked in and I looked around and I go, this is home. This is home. And it's always wonderful to come.
It's a mess right now because we're under reconstruction in a few rooms.
Yeah, but when you finish, I mean, my goodness, I see what you did with the kitchen. It's just an amazing transformation from the last time I was here.
It was dark and ratty and had tile with a red and black camouflage pattern. And,
Yes, it's beautiful now. So, my friend, let me see how much time we got here. Okay, yeah.
So I have to be going on tour soon with Wendy.
Oh, yes? Oh. Tell them about Wendy.
Wendy is a dog that rescued me. She's a German Shepherd, Wendy, and she doesn't like being talked about. She came to our door on a very hot day, and then the rain broke out. And other people in the neighborhood saw her, and she was beautiful, and they wanted to get her, but she wouldn't go to them. But I just started talking calm to her, kind of using the voice I used with Alligator, and calmed her down, and she came over, and then it started doing a Texas frog strangler. In Texas, it doesn't sprinkle. It just suddenly starts raining intensely. It drops an inch. We had an inch in 15 minutes last week.
Well, that's
only in our neighborhood.
oh yeah.
And started pouring down, and she came in and has never left, and that was 7 years ago, and has been the animal joy of my life since then. She's my best friend, goes wherever I go. But she has a unique talent. And now for our family birthdays, you mind if I give a little piece of it, Alligator?
Yeah, okay.
She's down here. She's going to be off camera. Wendy, look. So anyway, we call all the family members and we sing happy birthday together. Good.
Now, we had a discussion about Wendy and the harmonica. The harmonica is a reed instrument. My accordion, my button accordion, is a reed instrument, and for some reason, animals seem to react to these reed instruments. Many years ago, when I was living in Fresno, I was telling you about the other day. They used to hire me at the Fresno Zoo for their fundraising things, and I did it a few years in a row. And I found out one thing, that when they put me next to the elephant cage, I would play the guitar and the fiddle and the mandolin, and the elephants paid me no attention. But whenever I picked up the accordion sounds very much like the harmonica.
Yeah.
They're both a reed instrument. Whenever I picked up the accordion, the elephants would just start moving, just moving to the rhythm. And when I stopped playing the accordion, they would go back. And the last time I played there, I told one of the people working there, I said, "Who is the director of this place?" They said, "Oh, he's over there in this office." I said, "Go get her. Go get her." And they said, "Why?" I said, tell her she's got to come here. Alligator says come here. She's got to see this." Mm-hmm. So she came over, and I was playing the guitar or something. And she introduced herself to me. And I said, "Hey, listen, watch these elephants." I said, "I'm playing the guitar, right? Okay, now watch this." I finished the song. I picked up the accordion, and as soon as I squares a note out of the accordion, they started going back and forth like their trunks were going like. And I stopped playing. I played another instrument, and she's standing there, and I said, "Watch this." I pick up the accordion every time. They did that, you know. Mm-hmm. Every time you play the harmonica, she sings.
Yes.
You know?
And it's not hurting her. She's not complaining. She's always happy to do it.
Yeah.
So the other thing I wanted to briefly touch on that's brought us joy, both my wife and I, is we've been fostering dogs.
Yes.
Rescue dogs.
Yeah.
And so we've had two older dogs, one eventually terminal, and 5 or 6 puppies. And then they go from Texas to the Pacific Northwest, Portland, Oregon, Seattle. And the reason is in Portland, in the Pacific Northwest, people are responsible pet owners and responsible government. They don't let them do puppy mills. And so you have to adopt a dog that already exists. But because they don't, they get all their dogs spayed and neutered, which you should, spay and neuter your dogs and cats. And there aren't a lot of puppies to adopt. So we have a pipeline from here, and the rescue we work with sends an 18-wheeler that's their own, full of puppies and cats, to Portland, Oregon, twice a month. They'll have as many as 75 dogs that have been fostered. And they rely on fosters to watch them. And with Wendy is a great surrogate mom and teaches them how to act with a puppy. And our cats smack them when they're out of line and teach them how to act with cats. And so when they leave us, they're family ready. They know how to get along with people. They know how to get with dogs and cats. And so everybody who's gotten one of our fosters has enjoyed it. And we get updates from time to time. It's a blast. And then you get a puppy and they wear you out because first they're up all night, and then you get rid of them and you get a break, and then when you're ready you do another one.
That's great. Just that type of doing things that come from the heart. Mm-hmm. It's there's got to be a special place up there.
Yeah.
For people like that.
So the future holds probably nothing in education. I've been there and done that. Happy to have done it. Happy not to do it. A lot of people stay involved, but I've already taught teachers and administrators and done all that, and so it's time for something new. Keep the tools and move on. That's my motto.
That is great, man. Well, Ken, Do you have any other items you want to show, or did you?
No, I'm good. I got an endless list of items
Yeah.
to show, but I was going to bring the bass guitar that I built and other things.
Could you bring that big one over here?
Yeah.
This
You
is
may have to slide out there.
yeah, what do you call them? The Indian
Mudgar.
Mugdar.
Mugdar. And this is made out of a piece of cedar I found alongside the road. In Texas, we have a heavy trash day, and I love heavy trash day because you get cool stuff. And so anyway, I had a lathe, but I didn't know how to turn it. So that's what I learned turning on. Apparently I had the wrong tool and did it the wrong way, but it turned out well. And
So you guys go online and look up Mugdar. How do you spell it?
Mugdar.
Mugdar.
And you can start out as simply as just swinging it. If you hold it upright and just go straight up and down. And I'll do that 50 times.
Yeah.
You know, and then do it over your head, you know. And then you start swinging it around back and forth.
Oh, you get a workout.
Yeah, and then some guys get good and they use 2 of them.
Yeah, because this one is heavy.
That's 7 pounds.
Yeah. Only 7 pounds?
Yeah.
Because of the way it is, it seems more.
Oh, it is, because all the weight's at the end.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, that's one.
But it's also a nice, when you're not using it, it's a lovely art piece for the home. There we go. Wendy, you okay? She's the sweetest dog. Everybody should come by and say hi.
So, here I am in Texas. I'm going to leave tomorrow. If I feel good in the morning, I may wait until in the afternoon.
That's good to hear.
See, I thought this guy would be sick of me by now. He's trying to encourage me to stay. That's Ken. He's concerned about my health, and naturally I am too. My goodness, I'm getting old. I can't do the things I used to do. But anyway, I'm headed next. I was going to go to Orlando, but because I got sick and I stayed here, I'm not going to do that. My next stop is going to be Durham and Dudley, North Carolina. Then I'm going to be in a place called Dauphin, Virginia, but I'm going to do some performance in Richmond. And then I go to Maryland, where I perform there and see my Aunt Sally. Then I go to New Jersey, where I would perform and see friends there. And I would hop in the car and drive back to the Bay Area. I did it in a day and a half this time, but I'm going to take 3 days going back like normal people do. I think I did 18 hours before I stopped. First, I mean, when I say before I stopped, I really mean that. All I did was gas up and take a leak. That was it. 18 hours. And then the next day, it took me 8 hours to get here from where I was. So I did it in 2 days, but I'm going to do it in 3 days the next time. And just take my time going back. So Ken, it's always wonderful. I wanted to have you on my show because Ken is an interesting guy. I like people that I can talk about just about anything with. A lot of people I can. A lot of people are not that well rounded that you can just pick a subject and they can jump in with you and talk about it. This guy, no problem.
Or they're too emotionally attached to it.
Oh, yes.
Can't speak to a topic dispassionately.
Yes. But we have no problem with that stuff.
That's right.
So I want you over there to turn this thing off.
Yeah, and you'll want me to put the mandolin behind me.
Yeah.
Bye.
Ken Harbour. I'm going to do one more little song here, as I always do to close this show out. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. I'm going to try to get it up while I'm out here on the road. When I get to another place where I can get the right coverage, I'm going to put this one up. Oh boy, I let it sit too long. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I may have done this before. I really can't keep up with all the songs I do. But anyway, when I was, I remember, give me 1 minute. I got to do this. Many, many years ago, somebody came to me and they said, Alligator, have you heard the new song by Peaches and Herb? And I said, Peaches and Herb? I jumped up, ran into the kitchen, got a saucer and a fork. Peaches and Herb, I'm ready. And they go, no, it's a band. And my attitude was, I wish bands would stop naming themselves after food. I get confused.
Vanilla fudge.
Peaches and Herb, we're going to do this little thing here, Alligator style. Oh boy. Let's give it a try. I was a fool to ever leave your side. Me minus you is such a lonely ride. The breakup we had left me lonely and sad. Realize I love you cause I want you back. Hey, hey, I sat there staring at the same old wall. Came back to life just when I got your call. Our quarrel was such a way of learning so much. Realize I love you cause I miss your touch. Hey, hey, reunited feels so good. Reunited and it's understood. There's one perfect fit. This one is it. We both are so excited cause we're reunited. Hey, hey. I sat there staring at the same old wall. Came back to life just when I got your call. A quarrel was such a way of learning so much. Realize I love you cause I miss your touch. Hey, hey, hey. Reunite. Stop calling stuff after food. Listen, this is Alligator in Alignment. I hope you've enjoyed our little chat with my friend Ken. I may do it, run into someone else before I'm on my way back home, but this will be going up in about a week. As soon as I get someplace else, I'm going to put it up. I've got some really interesting things coming up. We're going to get back on the political scene here once in a while, but I like to get away from that for a while. It's too much. This is Alligator in Alignment. Here's what I say. Happy trails. Happy trail.